then you know, okay, you've got things to work on. You take responsibility and you change things. So that's my take from the story.
That's beautiful. One of the things that reminded me of, you said it's hard to remember to keep things, to consider things as sacred. I made a list of like life rules or proverbs or things that were important to me, qualities I wanted to embody. And one of them, which I don't know where I got it from, but really spoke to me, was treat things as sacred, not serious. I can't say that I've lived by that, but I really believe that, like, you know, there's that serious where things are very heavy and, you know, it has to be this way. But sacred still has a treating things as valuable, important, looking into them, you know, taking note and being full, showing up fully, but without the maybe attachment to outcome or the heaviness of thinking that, like, if it doesn't turn out this way, it's really bad, or, you know, there's something there. But yeah, I really want to remember that. So thank you for sharing that and bringing that up.
I agree, and actually I feel like the two words just have a very different feeling in the body. You know, sacred feels very open and serious feels very closed. So you can have, it's almost like as soon as something is serious, there's an element of resistance in there. And as soon as something is sacred, there's kind of a opening up to it. At least in my body. I mean, I can't speak for everyone, but that's how I feel. So I really like that.
I think with regards to when you mentioned the cleaning, where you just do the basic mundane things, that is very interesting, because when you're cleaning, so you got 24 hours in a day, and when you're in a state of cleaning, you're basically what's out there, like let's say your room or your vehicle or your house. It's all a reflection of your own self. It's your own. So I think the act of cleaning is actually getting into a very progressive state, and where you are then cleaning your own internal by cleaning on the outside, which is a very, I would say, noble thing to do for yourself, and for the people around you in your space, which is very sacred. So I think that's entertaining. I think a lot of people enter this state of like a little bit of like worry or all this like self-doubt, and it's not going to be about anything really, but it's actually only 24 hours that you're investing time thinking about these. So the act of cleaning gets you into that state of progression, bettering your environment, getting you into a more state of peace. Yeah, so, and another thing that I wanted to mention, just with regards to our little mouse, is that, you know, like it's also like that, opportunities, as we spoke about, are everywhere. Opportunities are all around us, always there, but it is up to us to see it. And how do we see it? Is by being into that state of mind where we are able to identify the opportunity. So the story could have gone unfolded in a very different way. The story could have, there's always a parallel reality that exists. And I think one that the poor man could have seen the rich man as a person who had a big ego, who was there just saying, oh, he's rich and I should be rich and I could start with this mouse, but he's not proving it to me, and what an asshole, fuck this shit, and take the mouse and throw it against some guy on the side of the road and be like, people are always making me feel like an idiot. And then, like, you know, so he could have taken that information and taken action differently, and he could have ended up I don't know, jumping off a tree or a roof because he couldn't be rich, because that's
or in jail for throwing mice at people.
See,
gone downhill quick. No, it's interesting. The other parallel reality too is like he could have gotten the mouse, sold it, and been like, all right, cool, I got a few copper pieces, like let me just go buy some lunch, and then that's it. Then he ate lunch, and then he's back to square one. And it just, you know, which speaks to Geerish mentioned about like determination, and also what we've talked about taking the next step instead of just taking one step and being like, all right.
Yeah, and seeing opportunities.
You know what? He actually did go and buy lunch. He went to go buy some nuts. But when he made the acquisition, he was like, hold on. I can do something with these nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good
Yeah,
point.
exactly.
You know,
I
so he
got
kind
some
of
cool.
maybe
Sorry.
maybe took 1 or 2 nuts as a snack. He maybe just took 2 and
Maybe.
closed the bag. It was like, you know,
Sure. Yeah,
Maybe.
that's some self-restraint and you know, that's
true.
kind of another
composure,
quality.
discipline.
Discipline. Yeah.
You know,
Okay.
just give himself the right amount of energy just to move forward.
Oh,
Just to move it forward. I got some cool advice the other day about money, where you know Karen Barron. I think you know her, Damian. I'm sure you know.
Potentially.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure in Cape Town. Yeah, but she gave me some advice the other day, and she said when it comes to money, see it as energy and use it to make more of what you have. I
Okay.
kind of like that way of saying it, like use it to make more of what you have. Like, I don't know, I just liked it. She actually went with an analogy. She said, make babies with your money. Like, not literally.
Yeah.
She said, just like grow, make more, you know, see what you
Yeah.
have and then
Well,
go with that, make more.
Karen, you know Ryan Edmonds.
Yes.
So the one time I was at his place and we were chatting about money, and I had the book with me, Think and Grow Rich.
Oh yeah.
And so we had the conversation, and I was like, you know, you got like it's about money. Money is energy. It's about the energy you put out. So they're like your friends, basically. You can like, if you love your money, he was like, oh my God, that's so true. And next thing he took out all these bills, like these rands, and he put it on his bed. And he was like, my friends. And then he was like going around. He's like, bye, my friends. I'll see you later. Anyway, I thought that was funny. And he's very abundant. So
Yes.
shout out to Ryan. What's cracking, dog?
That actually brings a very dark aspect to an image that I had, a little like metaphorical image, as if the money are friends. But I was imagining like two people, you guys, where you're talking about like making more money, making more of what you have. Two people sitting by a fire, and it's like night falling, and it's getting cold, and it, you know, it might even be a snowy or very chilly night, dangerously so. And so they each have a suitcase full of money. And so the one guy, he's like sitting by his fire as it's dwindling. He's just, you know, has a suitcase of money and it's so valuable, and he's just sitting there with it, not doing anything. The other guy is putting the money right into the fire, you know, and the fire keeps the fire going. And then at the end of the night, one guy freezes to death, and the other guy, you know, used that money to live his life, to continue to, yeah, but don't do that if you're with money, if you're friends with the money, I guess. I don't know. That adds a bit of a issue, another moral dilemma into the story.
It's like one of Mr. Amgulam's favorite movies, The Dark Knight, where the Joker acquires all these millions of dollars, and then he comes and he has his message, and then he burns and he lights fire to it, and he watches it disintegrate.
Yeah.
That's it would be interesting to hear your perspective of what the character, the Joker, what his perspective would be in terms of how, you know, why he took action on burning all that money. Throw it in the furnace.
I think he mentioned it in the movie. He said that it's about sending a message. It's not about accumulating wealth. Mm-hmm. So the whole psychology of the Joker is he's trying to prove a point. And actually, I agree with the Joker, with the thing he's trying to prove, because what he's trying to prove is something I've seen in life throughout my life. So what the Joker is trying to prove is that given certain situations, okay, so let's say in your life, if you're put under harsh conditions, let's say, it brings out the worst from people. All right, but the Joker is trying to prove that every human being is like that. So that's where he's from, and that's where Batman comes into play, because Batman. So Bruce went through all these things, but he didn't turn evil, right? So Joker is trying to prove that if you put like certain conditions, a person will turn evil, and he does that with Harvey Dent in the story. Like Harvey turns to the dark side. And in my own life, I've seen it, and I've witnessed it with friends also, that when things get tough, the blame game starts. And I think we touched on blame game last week, Damien. And I would still say it. I found that to be something very disgusting. I think that when things get tough, you really need to talk more, try to solve things out, and you, at no point you should lack respect towards the other one. But with a lot of people, they start a blame game. You can see that happening at work also. Once there is a problem, it's the other person. That's the other person's responsibility. So people don't take responsibility. Imagine this was happening like in the military, and the surgeon just say, "Oh no, it's not my fault." You won't lead your group, isn't it? So sometimes we need to take full responsibility when we do a mistake. Okay, yeah, I messed up. How do we fix it? But people are running away from that. So that's what the Joker is trying to prove. And he's right at some point, but I would say that some people don't turn evil. I mean, they take on responsibility and they try to do the right thing. And that's where ethics come into play, I would say, because we're all human beings with emotions. And yeah, someone asked me a question last time at work. So he was asking me that, I asked a mindfulness coach a question, I didn't get an answer. And I said, okay, what was the question? So he asked me that, okay, you talk about being detached from emotions and all that, but what if someone breaks into your house and then puts a gun on your mother's head? Will you try to be detached and you say, no, we talk about it in a very mindful way? So I think that the question didn't accept the answer. Maybe the person took it as a personal attack, but at those points, maybe we need to act. Maybe we need to do something. Perhaps we need to punch or do something so that something worse doesn't happen. So it's not always about being mindful. Sometimes being mindful is actually something which is like aggression. And there's a beautiful Zen story, okay, which I'm going to tell you about this point, which I didn't tell the person because it was like lunchtime and the bell rang. So there's stories like that. So there's this Zen teacher who's like meditating under this tree, okay, good posture and equanimity and everything. And there's another person who's trying to cross the river, but the Zen teacher knows that, it's dangerous to cross the river. You may drown if you don't know how to swim. Now, the way the Zen guys meditate is that they don't close their eyes. So it's always 1/3 open. Okay? So that you are inside and you are outside also. That's the equanimity stage where you're inside of you and you're also in the physical world. So you are alert at the same time. So he was in the posture, he did see what was happening. So he spoke to the person and told the person, okay, don't cross the river. Right now, it's very dangerous because of the current flowing and all that. And I sit here every day. I know it's dangerous, don't do that. And the person was like, oh, what do you know, old man? So he started to cross. So the Zen master got up, took a stick, hit the guy on the head. He fell unconscious and then dragged him to the tree, tied his hands, and then continued to meditate. And that's a Zen tale. It's not always about not being violent and being peaceful. It's about doing the right thing. So sometimes we need to act in that way. Like it's been told that the Buddha, he threw himself in front of animals because at that time they were sacrificing animals for religious purposes. Okay, so he threw himself there and he said that, okay, cut my throat and then you can cut the throat of the cattle, something like that. And then they were taken back. And they actually did not do anything to him because he was actually a prince. So they didn't know that he was a king's son who turned into a monk, okay? But that was the message actually. All lives matter in that case, even animals. So yeah, it's really about doing the right thing. I mean, okay, since Damian mentioned the Dark Knight, so if you look at Batman's personality and Gotham's state, he has to be aggressive to stop the criminals. He's doing the right thing. He has to punch, he has to hit, and he has to do the things that he has to do, but he still has that no-killing rule where he tries not to kill, which is debated if you've been reading comics and all that. But that's where he draws the line. So you need to have ethics. And it's not all about always being peaceful. I mean, sometimes you need to say no to people. Sometimes you need to tell people, no, you're crossing the line.
Yeah.
Because we have that misconception that when we are spiritual, it's all, it's all fine. But no, sometimes you draw the line.
It's like active versus passive, sometimes you can't always be passive. There needs to be a balance between taking action and holding back. It's like, yeah.
It's like if you have two ducks in a pond, and sometimes, or you have many ducks in a pond and they're all swimming, but sometimes you get an energy build-up between two of the ducks, and they come and they get into each other's space and they get all into like a frisky little fight, and then they just kind of go in their separate ways and kind of flap their wings, and then they peacefully go off again. That is, I think that is what we're talking about. It's like sometimes it's things that needs to be, there's a little bit more energy that needs to be exchanged, and you can always find the balance, but it needs to happen just to kind of neutralize it. And then the duck is a perfect example, because it just cruises off and kind of like shakes its wings, gets rid of the energy, and then continues moving forward, and then sees the duck later and then has a nice chat and be like, how are you doing, dude? Like, yeah, no, what a crazy day. Yeah, no, everything's going lekker now. It was a little bit annoyed earlier on. How you doing?
Yeah.
You clearly know more about ducks than I do.
Yeah, you've clearly done some.
You've watched some more documentaries.
I go to the park a lot, and then I like to observe birds and what they do, and like, because they see things from a bird's eye view, and I'm always fascinated by birds, and ducks is just one of those things. I also like water off a duck's back. It's just like water off a duck's back, and that was just what came to mind when you guys were chatting about it. But yeah, birds are pretty cool. Birds are pretty cool.
But I think it's definitely what you were saying is like, often people think, if you're spiritual, you detach from emotions, but actually emotions have a really important role to play. Like, they're actually really valuable for us. And I think I want to just quickly share a little analogy with you guys that I like to use in my coaching, but it's really powerful. So it's like I call it like, the purple and blue ball analogy. Okay. So imagine you standing in a body of water. So it's just still clear water. Okay. So imagine the sea in Mauritius. This is not an ocean that I'm used to. I'm used to giant waves. But so imagine you're just standing in the water and like up to your waist, and all around you, you've got, those little plastic balls that you get in kids' play pits that the kids like swim around in, that you don't want to touch with a 10-foot pole. So it's like you've got some of those floating all around you, and some of them are purple and some of them are blue, and they're just there, they're just chilling, nothing's really happening. And then off in the distance, there's another person, and they've also got some. And then one day, and everyone's just chilling, nothing's happening. And one day someone comes to you and they say, listen, you know that the purple ones are actually really bad. You're not supposed to have them. You should actually be pretty embarrassed if you've got them. And then you look around you and you're like, oh my gosh, I've got all these purple ones. Like, what am I supposed to do? So you try to throw it away and it just pops straight back up. So you're like, okay, I can't get rid of this thing. What am I supposed to do? So you just push it down under the water and you just try to hold it there so that no one sees. So anytime someone walks past, you just push it under and you're like, all's good here. And then what happens is you end up spending so much time and energy trying to hold this under the water that if you have a moment where, let's say you get a fright, or you let up for a second, or you just like relax a little bit and your hand slips, guess what's going to happen? It's going to splash up, make a huge scene, probably hit someone on the head, splash everyone around you. And then that could just reaffirm
knock someone out, kill someone.
Exactly. You know how that goes. You know how it goes, Damien. You've been there. And so then what happens is it just reaffirms your belief that these are terrible. These purple ones are bad. You're not supposed to have them. But the truth is, if you just allowed it to stay there and float, it actually wasn't harming anyone. It wasn't an inherently harmful thing. And I think we often do that with certain qualities in ourselves or emotional states, like anger, for example. We think anger is like unspiritual and we shouldn't have it. But the truth is, it's a part of our being. And if it's allowed to just be there, it's actually very unlikely to be harmful to anyone, ourselves or someone else. But if you try to push it under, yes, then when it splashes up, it's more likely to have a very warped and unhealthy expression. And that's when you're likely to actually do some damage. So I think as spiritual beings, we must actually accept all of ourselves, including all our emotions, rather than try to push them under and pretend like we don't have them, because that's when they can actually serve us. Because, you know, there's a time to be angry when you have to put your boundaries in place or be like, listen, this isn't okay. Like, there's a time for it. So it's yeah, but it's when you suppress it that it becomes warped
and also, like, when you are angry, it's natural emotion, but it's very important to be able to not be so attached to the anger in terms of reactive. That's where it can be dangerous, where the practice is to kind of feel that anger, let it come up, and know how to manage your own anger so as to not make mistakes that can come and bite you. You don't take intention do something out of anger, then that can come back in a certain way. So being what you mentioned now, a spiritual being, or a refined being, or an awakened being, or enlightened being would be like definitely to be kind of like observe the emotion, whether it be anger, whether it be whatever emotion, without kind of clinging onto it and then going on that. It's more about like seeing the emotion, pause, observe it, and then decide how to move forward in the way that's most in alignment or optimal for yourself. But when I say it's yourself, not necessarily in terms of like selfish way, in a sense, yeah, but also by doing that, you're in service of everyone around you.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. If they're just all allowed to float there, that's when you can actually observe them and just be like, okay, cool. These aren't harming me. They're not harming anyone else, but they're there and I can see them and I know that they're there. But it's like they become reactive, as you say, or they become like destructive or out of control, actually, when they're pushed under. Yeah. Or if, like you said, you go with them too much, if you pick it up and throw it at someone, that's also like leaning into it too much. It's that balance of just letting them be and noticing it and just being like, okay, cool. It's not inherently harmful or bad if it's just allowed to just be there, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Awesome, guys.